Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got some disassembly as well as some first impressions for you on this little guy right here. This is the CJRB Ria. First off, well, actually, I guess full disclosure, this guy was sent to me by Artisan Cutlery / CJRB. So there's that, and aside from that, come on. This has got a little bit of some very gummy thread locker. It's not like the usual stuff. It's like a... Yeah. All right. Well, I got it loose. Good Lord. It's a lot of thread locker. And we'll go ahead and pop this in there. The other thing that's worth noting is that this guy has an aftermarket clip. I think they're being sold by Artisan, but I don't think this is the default clip. It actually came with a much more of a sort of vanilla version of the clip, and so there's that. Let's pop this guy loose, and everything is falling apart, and that's okay. Oh, lanyard hole. Look at that. They've got a lanyard post in there. That's excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and just clean this guy up. This is fresh from the factory, of course, which one can't argue with. And I'm going to clean this guy up using a little bit of rubbing alcohol and a little cloth swatch. And by the way, if you're curious about this or any of the other tools I use during this or any of my disassemblies, go to nickshabazz.com/tools and you will find all of it right there waiting for you. So there is that. Interesting piece, this one. This one is sort of it's a relatively budget-friendly piece. I want to say, what's the price on this guy? $54.95, according to, well, Late HQ is the one I pulled up immediately. That's a pretty reasonable price. I mean, but it's also a pretty nice-looking knife, right? At some level, yeah, you can do a whole lot worse in terms of aesthetics for $50, $54, I suppose. So there is that. And the action on it so far has been quite nice. So that's good. Interesting little piece. CJRB in a lot of ways has been, just to be frank, more exciting than Artisan. You know, Artisan Cutlery's a brand that's, you know, fine, and they've done some nice stuff, but honestly, I feel like they are perhaps more at their strength when they are doing more the budget stuff with CJRB than they are with the higher end stuff with Artisan. You know, I'm trying to think if Artisan has done anything that was just like, whoa, on the higher end. And by the way, that's just a trick to get some of the Loctite out of there. Clean that up a little bit, twist that in. Okay, and I'm using a watch spring bar tool for all of this. I think we're ready to put this guy back together here. So let's go on ahead and do that. We will start off by putting the pivot back into place, or we can start off by yeeting it across the room, you know, whatever. There were many paths, the roads to Rome, I suppose. But okay, let's go ahead, or in this case, I suppose, the Rio de Janeiro. Okay. All right, let's pop this in here. I gotta say, Ria, interesting name. Usually that's what you get from the Taco Bell. Sorry, Taco Bell. I know you know, good for more than that, but yeah. I haven't had Taco Bell in many years now for precisely that reason. Okay, moving on. Back at the ranch. Completely not discussing Taco Bell anymore. We are moving right along here. Go ahead, drop in this bearing, and I'm using some 10-weight nano oil here just to get everything good to go. I put a little bit of lubrication on the detent ball as well, and so that should be good. Is this binding? No? Okay, I guess not. Let's put this little lanyard post back in there. Although, yeah, I guess you should run it with that in there. I was going to say, you could probably get away with not having it in there, but whatever. And we will put this little liner down into place on this. And pop everything back in together. There we go. Beautiful. Make sure that's pressed in place. And I think we're all set to put the scale back on, which appears to be a micarta, a real micarta of some variety. And we will screw the pivot back. Well, actually, no, I've got the back screw on the screwdriver already, so let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, in a lot of ways, this is a classy little piece, especially with this micarta. It's not so bad. And it's a relatively small piece. This is sort of borderline even a gentleman's carry, sort of, or I suppose fancy pants carry. Doesn't matter how you identify, right? But nonetheless, it's that variety of thing. Which I kind of appreciate. That's something I don't think CJRB has done before. And frankly, the micarta is, although this is very clearly a CJRB, right? I mean, it's a relatively inexpensive liner lock, well, not flipper, I suppose, but, you know, liner lock on bearings. At the same time, okay, this feels maybe a little tight. Let's see if I can loosen this up. Yeah. There we go. Oh, nope, too loose. Just got to tighten a little bit more there. Tighten, tighten. There we go. And we are more or less centered, although I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen up this back screw a little bit, just to let some of the tension out of the system, then retighten. Yeah, we are more or less centered. Looks like I could maybe, let's see if I loosen the pivot, just because right now the blade is a little bit towards the lock side. And generally speaking, that means that there is a little bit too much pressure at the pivot. And see, as I'm tightening the pivot and loosening the pivot, the blade is moving back and forth there. So very often, centering can be a question of pivot tightness. And that makes sense too, right? Because the lock is going to be pressing the blade in this direction. It's applying force that way, and the pivot is going to be going the other way. So let's see if with the blade dead centered, now we have significant play. All right, so we're not getting this guy centered. Let's go ahead and tighten it down to the point where we have no play, which ain't so bad. For $60, okay, whatevs. Are we too tight there? I might have over-tightened that. I might be able to get away with a little. Yeah, that was too tight. And let's loosen up just a little tiny touch. Is there the slightest bit of play? Do I care? I don't know. Give it the little tiniest hint of something. Yeah, there we go. So, overall, I guess my impressions of the knife, now that all is finished, my impressions are generally pretty good, right? It is a relatively small piece. In fact, it is quite small. I mean, throw this guy up with a, yeah, right there. We're looking at like under 3 inches worth of blade. It's a nice size. It's, you know, with a polished line as the micarta. I'll make this feel relatively gentlemanly. In some ways, it recalls, although I'm not saying it's the same damn knife, but the Menundi from Chris Reeve. It kind of has a similar feeling and overall aesthetic. I can see this being a hit for him. The price on it is fine. You know, I'd love to see him come a little lower, but $50 for good micarta. Okay, whatever. Can't get bent out of shape. It's not super heavy. They've done some weight reduction. Balance is a little farther back, but whatever. I mean, for the most part, and actually the grind is quite nice. The steel here is it's Artisan's AR RPM 9, which is not something I've ever really handled, but you know, I'd be curious to see the chemical composition of it. Better research that a little bit before the review, right? But anyways, there you go. That's the CJRB Ria. And, yeah, those are my first impressions. Largely positive. Honestly, I think there are going to be a lot of people for whom this is going to be a relatively inexpensive but relatively classy little carry knife. And, by the way, the edge is very thin. You know, like I said, I'm actually quite impressed here. I'm, frankly, more impressed than I expected to be. So, that's a beautiful thing. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.